The MAGA civil war continues. The tariffs have caused so much angst, anxiety, backlash in the Republican caucus in the House and in the Senate, and now it looks like it has reached Elon Musk, who is publicly criticizing Donald Trump and his tariff plan in an attack on one of his advisors that has me thinking maybe Elon's not so happy about getting pushed out of Doge. We're going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we get into how unhappy Elon is lashing out at one of Donald Trump's senior advisors over his tariff plan, I first want to hear from someone who I think did the perfect job explaining what is really happening with these tariffs, and Senator Chris Murphy right here.
What is being proposed in the Senate right now is stunning in its scope. You are talking about a piece of legislation that has such deep cuts to Medicaid. This is the program that insures 24% of American families. 1/4 of Americans get their health insurance from Medicaid. You don't know it as Medicaid because it's called something different in each state. In Connecticut, it's called Husky. In Wisconsin, it's called Badger Care. But in every state, about 1/4 of the population gets their insurance through a Medicaid-funded program. Most of those folks are working full-time. But for one reason or another, that's where they get their insurance. You're talking about kicking millions of people off of that program. And for what? For what? To rack up the biggest bill ever on the credit card of the middle class, an explosion in debt, but also to fund a tax cut for the fabulously wealthy. This is the 2017 tax cut, which is essentially going to be mirrored, we believe, by this tax cut. The top 1% of earners got tax cuts 852 times bigger than working families in America. We don't know the final shape of this tax cut, but it won't look fundamentally different from that. This is a really bad time to be a working mom or dad in America. This week, we are passing, apparently, a massive cut in health care benefits for working families in order to pad the pockets of the wealthy. But we are also dealing with the Trump tariff plan, which has been a Keystone Cop-like rollout that will ultimately raise prices for every single American. Tariffs can work as part of a coordinated, thoughtful approach to trying to rebuild American industry. But they only work when you partner those tariffs together with industrial policy incentives to help promote the industry that you are trying to punish when the products come from abroad. I'm not reflexively opposed to the use of tariffs, but this use of tariffs is bananas because it's not paired with any domestic industrial policy.
Donald Trump's tariff plan makes no sense. Of course it doesn't. It is out of the brain, or whatever is left of his brain, of Donald Trump. But what he does understand is not deal-making per se, is not leverage for the country, but for himself. He wants CEOs. He wants world leaders to come to him and say, what can I give you, Donald, in exchange for loosening up these tariffs? Donald Trump does not have some vision of trade or how America can reshape the global markets that will better serve working people in this country. No. But he does know he can get Tim Apple or Jeff Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg, certainly Elon, to come down and beg and plead. And what can I do for you, Mr. President? That's why all these people gave money to his inauguration, because they want their pocketbooks protected. Donald Trump knows that he could get some help from that. That is what he is focused on. And apparently, Elon is not a fan of tariffs at all. And he made that clear with this post right here. Musk swipes at Navarro amid tariff turmoil. He ain't built anything. The tech CEO has lost billions as markets tanked and has been mostly silent on the president's tariffs. Elon Musk took an apparent swing at senior White House aide Peter Navarro, one of the chief cheerleaders of Donald Trump's tariff plan, amid market turmoil that has hammered Musk's holdings. Musk, a close advisor to the president for now, has been unusually quiet at the rollout of Trump's sweeping tariffs, as they've caused the markets to tumble and global trading patterns to retaliate. In response, China hit the U.S. with a reciprocal tariff of 34% on all U.S. goods. Tesla shares, like much of the rest of the market, have fallen since Trump announced the tariffs. In the early hours of Saturday morning, Musk took to his social media platform X to launch an apparent attack at the president's senior trade counselor, taking jabs at Navarro under a video in which he explains the Trump administration's logic in levying tariffs. A PhD in econ from Harvard is a bad thing, not a good thing. Results in the ego brain over one problem, Musk wrote. Navarro earned a PhD in economics from Harvard in the 1980s. The Department of Government Efficiency head replied to another user's comment on the video, lauding Navarro's explanation, writing of The Economist, "He ain't built anything." So Elon's losing money, and Donald Trump isn't happy. By the way, I saw a tweet just today, someone saying that all the billionaires who attended Donald Trump's inauguration have lost about $500 billion in the past couple of days as the markets have tumbled. I shouldn't laugh. We're all being affected, and they don't obviously care. It's a fraction of their net worth. If Jeff Bezos goes from $200 billion to $150 billion, that has no impact on his life. It doesn't. Millions of people will be fired because of it. That has impacts on our lives, but they don't care. But the tweet said they lost about $500 billion. If they had paid Kamala Harris's wealth tax on billionaires instead, do you know how much it would have cost them? $36 billion. Over 2 years. I don't know if these people are good at business anymore. You made a bad bet. No, at no other time in American history have we seen the stock market rise more than under Joe Biden, and these people didn't want more of the Biden-Harris policies. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. It's not okay, actually, which is exactly what Chris Murphy got into more in the rest of this clip.
I don't actually know what it means to give billionaires another $50,000 in tax breaks. I really don't know what that means. I don't know what that life is like. I don't know what it's like to have 7 houses and 4 yachts. I don't know what a billionaire does with an extra $50,000. I can't actually explain that to you. I don't understand that kind of rapacious greed. What I do know is what happens to poor people, the people who live in my neighborhood in the south end of Hartford, when they lose their Medicaid. Linda lives in Sherman, Connecticut, a small town in western Connecticut. Following the economic downturn in 2008, Linda had trouble finding work. And that was tough for her because she's a cancer survivor. She had high healthcare expenses and she needed work. She was underemployed. She worked in plant nurseries and agriculture. Her husband at the same time lost his job as an auto mechanic. They lost their healthcare insurance. But then when the Affordable Care Act passed, Medicaid was expanded. More people were made eligible for Medicaid. And in 2010, she was able to sign up for Medicaid. She said, quote, "I had so much anxiety all the time about how to pay for healthcare. We were going through all of our money, and we just thought this isn't right. People shouldn't have to worry about just being basically healthy." But once she got healthcare, she was able to restart her life. Linda went back to school because now she had healthcare. She got a new degree. She found a job teaching agriculture at a local high school. But that program didn't provide health care, so she still needed that Medicaid. Medicaid, she says, just provides such a baseline for society. It allowed me to maintain my health so that I was able to continue working. The Medicaid cuts that they are talking about will destroy Medicaid expansion. In fact, some states will automatically cancel the Medicaid expansion program when these cuts are made, meaning that people like Linda all across the country are going to lose their health care. For what? For a massive tax cut for the wealthy. Emily Grinelli is a worker at one of Connecticut's biggest behavioral health and substance abuse providers. So every day she's talking to people who rely on Medicaid so that they can get help for their mental health disorder or their substance abuse disorder. And let's be honest, we all have somebody in our life who has a serious mental illness or has struggled with substance abuse. So you know these people. She wrote me a letter talking about the fact that the conversations in their therapy groups in the last month have fundamentally changed. They're actually not doing therapy any longer for mental illness or for substance abuse. They are now doing therapy for the anxiety all these people have knowing they're about to lose their health insurance. One case manager told me, she writes, that she was working with a client to find housing, and the client now just wants to stop looking because she feels like there is no point because she's going to lose her Medicaid. Republicans are going to strip her Medicaid from her. She won't be able to get her medication and services. She feels hopeless. A clinician told me about an hour-long session she had the day before. 75% of it was focused on the client's fear of losing her benefits and what that would mean for her and all the other clients. She shared with me that if there was a way for her to leave the country right now, she would. At this provider, 35% of their clients would likely lose access to mental illness and substance abuse services if these cuts go through. What are we doing? Why are we doing this? Why are my colleagues choosing to destroy healthcare for millions of Americans in order to pass a tax cut that basically helps corporations and billionaires and millionaires? It is fundamentally immoral. And I have to believe, like in 2017, when Republicans were trying to destroy the Affordable Care Act, which insured 20 million Americans, that there are a handful of Republicans who know that this isn't right, who maybe aren't ready to stop it today. Tonight's vote isn't the final vote, but might be willing to stand up to this thievery before it's too late. The people of this country who are getting killed by higher prices that are coming because of the tariffs and are going to be hurt by these Medicaid cuts and are going to be furious when the rich become richer at their expense. They are counting on just a small handful of my Republican colleagues to realize right from wrong.
Tariffs represent the chaos, the stupidity, and the corruption of Donald Trump's administration. Really the three things we need to hammer most. And it is certainly what we are going to be doing on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.